welcome to another edition of The Sound here on Radio North Angus.
She'll build you up and bring you down. She'll take you out. She'll snap your face. You want it, you got it. You want it, you got it. Listen to the sound. Listen to the sound. Listen to the sound.
And hello once again. Here we are in I was going to say sunny, but it isn't. But it might be when this goes out. But I'll tell you about that in a minute. Anyway, we're here in the studio today with another guest band, and we'll get on to that straight away. So today in the studio we have the guys, well, two guys from Man-Made Origin. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, right. Now, Man-Made Origin, now, first off, we'll introduce you. We have Max, is it? Yeah?
Yep.
And you play?
I do guitars and vocals.
There you go. And we've got...
Andrew or Andy.
And you play?
I play drums.
Oh, there we go. And you're two of, is it 5 members of the band?
Yes.
Yes. And the other people are?
DC, who does guitars and vocals as well.
Yeah.
DC stands for Dave Clement,
Right.
just to clear that up. Scott, who plays bass and occasionally a bit of percussion, and Jamie, who plays keyboards.
That's cool. That's excellent. Right. So we're going to play tracks from the new album, which I have here. They have kindly brought it in. It's called the Divine... close. That's a good start, isn't it? Yeah. It's called the Divine Soulless, and you've got a launch gig. Bearing in mind we're pre-recording this, okay, but it goes out anyway. We've dealt with that on the shows before now. It's like an episode of Star Trek. But anyway, tonight they will be doing their launch gig at Buskers. So we'll talk about that a bit later on. But in the meantime, we'll talk to the band. So, Man-Made Origin. How long has the band been going?
Since we formed in 2008, around about September time, because we'd all just started studying at Dundee University. DC and I already knew each other, and we'd kind of been jamming throughout the summer, just kind of like doing like, you know, what you typically do when you're like, yeah, let's start a metal band. It's like, oh, let's just play Enter Sandman by Metallica over and over again and stage down the town. So we decided we were going to go to the band society at the university, and we met Max there, and we just kind of played. Phone's on silent, everyone.
Yeah, well, yes, that's mine. The daft part is, right, we'll carry on in a minute, but I put it on silent, and then I suddenly realised you were going to be texting me from the car park, so I put it on again, and I forgot to put it on silent. Anyway, it's on silent now.
Excellent.
Right, sorry, Matt. Sorry, Malcolm, if you're listening. Anyway, right, go on.
Anyway, so we just decided to just jam some stuff out.
Yeah.
Now, I've always felt like, you know, if you're into a bit more sort of niche metal, it's a lot harder to jam than anything else. You can't really do like sort of bluesy, like a bluesy jam and just get away with that. We were all wanting to play like something really heavy. I was just into playing blast beats and double bass the whole time. Max was into Satyricon, so he was like just screaming and doing all this tremolo picking and stuff. And I don't even know what DC was doing. I think he was just trying to go along with it, and it sounded horrendous.
Really?
There was kind of a vision from earlier on. I mean, I came to the university, I was really keen on starting a band, and I always wanted to play progressive music, but I wanted it to be quite kind of heavy progressive music.
Right.
So I mean, we pushed for maybe after the Christmas, so you imagine the first semester, we'd kind of go on stage and these jam sessions as a band, just a 3-piece actually, me, DC and Andy. We don't have a bassist at that point.
Right.
And then we started kind of say, we'll do weekly rehearsals, and actually by the time it came to the summer, we were recording our first record, so it came together quite quickly in that way.
So was it just the three of you when the first album came to be, or did you get the bassist
No,
on board?
we did. We got a bass player. Do you remember Goon?
Yes.
Dan, the drummer. He was our bass player. He'd
really?
never played a bass in his life, and he was just like, "I'll play bass for you guys." And I'm like, "All right."
No, I remember it, Dan. Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. So he played bass for us for a little while.
What was the scene? Had any of you played in bands before, or was that, you know, either seriously or not so seriously, or was Man-Made Origin really the sort of first foray into serious bands?
I would say so. I mean, it's like I'd done stuff at school, you know, playing in kind of bands, battle of bands stuff and all that sort of thing, but nothing kind of organised and sustained. I mean, I think we're pretty serious from the beginning about really going for it as best we could.
So when you got together and you said the first album came quite quick, who was doing the writing mainly? Was it a collaborative effort or?
Well, we could kind of say this about all 3 albums that we've put out.
Yeah.
I'd say that it all kind of starts with either Max or DC.
Right.
They'll come up with something, they'll write riffs, they'll bring it into rehearsal, I'll listen to it and go, okay, that'll work here, this'll work there.
Yeah.
That's where, I'd say Max and DC create the pieces, and then it's a collaborative effort to put it together.
I'm with you. So germ of the idea comes from the two of you, and then it all gets built up from there. So.
I tend to be kind of Mr. Concept, so I mean, it's like I think
I had noticed.
that's kind of that's kind of our philosophy in some ways. I think.
Well,
the whole band,
when you get an album and you go to the back and there's like Roman numerals, you think, okay, we know what's coming here.
We were kind of off the rails with that record. I mean, it's got a 200-page ebook of short stories to go with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? All right.
So it's all kind of set in a futuristic, sci-fi universe where ancient Rome's continued and.
Oh well, we'll talk about that in a sec. But just going back to it's all right. We'll come on to that. The first album then, which I don't know anything about.
Yes.
What was it called?
It's called State of Nature.
Oh right, okay. And when you brought it out, how well did it do? I mean, did it did you promote it much or?
We did our launch night at the balcony.
Do you
remember the used to be
yeah.
Yeah, that was a great night. It's honestly, it's the kind of place you could put 5 people in it, and it feels like you're playing at Download or something.
That's right.
Awesome.
I remember seeing. Do you remember Self-Made Man?
I think the main reason we know of them is because what man made man. What's this all?
Yeah. No, I remember seeing them in the balcony bar, and they played, because the thing about the balcony bar was you're on the same level of the audience.
Yeah.
So it's like you got people in your face. I don't know how bands.
Oh, it was superb. It was great fun.
Yeah.
We used to love playing there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that first year we were together with that record coming out, we used to play there quite a bit. And that was, we remember that pretty fondly.
Yeah.
And that record was pretty heavy compared to the direction we've gone in. As you've heard with the new record, really? I mean, it's quite a bit softer. Yeah. So I mean, I guess there's been a progression that way as well.
The idea of you being soft, but I get what you're talking about. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say back then we kind of thought. I mean, okay, I'd say there was a lot of as has always been with this band, the influences have always been quite diverse. None of us truly listened to the same music. I mean, we listened to the odd few bands that are the same. Say, for example, at the time, Max was the guy who was really into Opeth and the black metal, death metal and things like that. I was into your sort of Bullet for My Valentine and Machine Head and all that.
Yeah, that's more me.
Stuff.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, I'm
and DC was right into his Metallica and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of meeting in the middle with okay, let's just go full on heavy with this. It was I'd say it was more death metal than it was progressive. Yeah, we thought we were more prog than we actually were at the time.
Oh really? Right. I presume that was because you were sort of driving. I mean, essentially, then you were the driving force at that point. So in terms of your influence, said right, we'll go in this direction, guys.
Well, I think I kind of wanted to pull it towards more progginess with it, but also our ability as musicians has got better and better over the past 7 years.
Right.
So I mean, what we could do at that point is very different from what we can do now.
I'm with you, right.
So we've developed in that level as well.
Oh, that's good. But so you got a first album out, you're gigging at the balcony bar, sort of promoting it all, and then what was there quite a lengthy gap between that and the second album then, or?
Not necessarily.
It's about 2 years. It was 2009, I think it came out, and then we put out False Consciousness in 2011.
So what led you into that direction then? You just naturally something you all thought, right, this is an area you want to go in, or did the music just develop sort of almost organically into that type of stuff?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, personally speaking, I'd become a lot more open-minded and diverse with what I was listening to.
Right.
I'd been playing in a couple of other bands at the time as well, so I mean it was, and that wasn't necessarily just metal either. So I was kind of forced to really get into something different.
Yeah.
A lot sort of softer stuff. Even going as I would say, I was even listening to a lot of heavier stuff as well, just stuff that was a lot more out of the norm, out of my comfort zone.
Right.
So
I was just to get some influences, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd say that, you know, it was just because of what we were listening to where we're really kind of going into new territory with that, and that really kind of just naturally fed into what it was we were wanting to do ourselves.
Right. So where did the idea of false consciousness start?
Well, I think we really wanted to kind of go off the rails this time with the concept. I mean, all of us were in the middle of degrees, so we had the flexibility to really just go for it.
Right.
So I mean, we banded together. We're a couple of guys that actually I'd met in student halls who were doing English degrees, and they wrote the stories with me. So that was all there, you know. So we wanted to go for this sort of massive sort of space opera type thing.
Right. So really, the whole story and concept and sort of lyrics almost came together before you actually decided on arrangements.
Yeah, I would say so. Like even for the new record as well, that's sort of how we work. So it's kind of we have the concept kind of decided in advance, then themes kind of allocated to songs, and then you're trying to soundtrack the themes. So it's kind of, I mean, for the new record, for instance, I'm sure we'll talk about more. You know, it's based on the Crusades, so it's really about, you know, what went on there and trying to actually get it so you channel that emotion into the music.
I'm with you. It must be quite a hard way of working in a sense, because you've got well, I don't know. Do you find it? I mean, presumably you find it fairly not easy, but I mean, it's the best way for you. But to actually come up with the whole sort of concept and storyline, I mean, obviously it goes back to the 70s when they used to do that all the time. But, I mean, there's very few bands who are doing that these days.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you're out there on a limb in a way, because you're producing modern music now that, I mean, it does, obviously it's completely contemporary, but it's based on a sort of old way of doing it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily like we kind of went, oh, this band from the 70s are the ones who used to do that, oh, let's do it the way they did.
Right.
It's just kind of what's happened, really. I mean,
just the way you were.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is true me saying this, but you're really into like really kind of big epic stories and history and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I do politics academically. That's what I've done.
Oh, really?
And I'm doing a PhD at the moment, so it's kind of, you know, I feel very strongly about that, and I want it to really mean something, the music, or it's like I don't see the point almost. I think we all feel like that. The music has to really mean something.
Yeah, well, that comes through. So anyway, what we're going to do, we've been chatting away, we're going to play a track from the second album, False Consciousness, first, and then we'll go on and talk about the new album, play some tracks from that, and talk about the launch gig, and other gigs, and anything else that's memorable. So in the meantime, Fate of the Verse we're going to play, and what was the album? Sorry, I interrupted you. What the album was about, the concept behind False Consciousness?
Keep it as brief as you can.
No, you can. It's all right, God's gift for the radio, but brief. Yeah, all right, keep going.
The idea with this record is that it's supposed to look at how communism could work. And also how it would go terribly wrong as well. So the idea is it's set in the far future where the Roman empires continued and colonised worlds and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And then someone from the establishment basically finds this world where, you know, groups of people have left planet Earth and start from scratch, you know, scrapped all their technology, and they've actually got a world where, you know, egalitarianism actually works.
Right.
So he tries to go back and sort things, and it goes terribly, terribly wrong.
Oh, fair enough. That's it in a nutshell. So let's play this. So this is going to be Man-Made Origin from the False Consciousness album, and this is Fate of the Verse. Right, I'll go straight in the next track. So that was Faith of the Verse from the album False Consciousness by Man-Made Origin. As you'll have gathered, their tracks aren't exactly short. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. But, so there's more to come, trust me. Anyway, yeah, so, I loved that album when I first picked it up. It was a great album. Now, I noticed that you at that point you were a 4-piece, so...
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
So where did you how far along the way did you pick up your 5th? Recently, or?
I'd say it was.
And which one is he for the people who aren't listening who haven't got an album in their hands?
Sorry, what was that?
Which is the 5th member?
When we were on that album, we had a guest vocalist on it who was Sarah Colosso.
Yes.
Who, I also happened to be in a band with at the time. I was the drummer for her solo project.
That's right.
We just asked her to come along, do some guest vocals, and just kind of add a bit of atmosphere. I think it was the Betrayal or something she was on. And
Lament for Tomorrow.
Lament Part 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Was it?
Legion of the Lost.
Yeah. 3, 4, and 6, which is Legion of the Lost, Uncharted Space, and The Betrayal.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Right, there you
go. Yeah. So we had her do guest vocals, and then for the actual album launch that night, she came along and sang on a couple of.
That's right. That was the one at Dexter's.
No, that was the one. That was at the Union.
That was at the Union.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Oh, well, because I saw you with her at Dexter's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So she came and sang on a couple of tracks that night, and then a couple of weeks later, we just asked her if she wanted to join full time. She said and we chucked in some keyboards as well. And
that's good. Right. Oh, well, that's all right. So that came out, and then as you say, you did some promotion for that album, and then sort of went into a bit of a sort of hiatus, didn't you? Or sort of,
on the outside, yeah. I mean, we were still playing quite a lot of gigs. I mean, especially immediately after that, we promoted that gig a lot, that record a lot through shows. But I mean, even before that album came out, me, DC, and now Sarah in the writing process were writing the song Antioch, which is on the new record.
Right.
And I mean, the songwriting process slowed down somewhat. I mean, we spent a lot longer. Our attitude towards it was, we want to be 100% happy with everything that's coming out, so we were really brutal with what was being written and the standard of it. So I mean, Antioch took, a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, kind of, in terms of...
Really?
It was kind of been written in the background, and then, it was brought to everyone else the year after the record came out.
Yeah.
We worked on that for a year. Sarah left us, but she had been working with DC doing a softer one, which is Adela. So DC wrote the instrumental for it. Sarah wrote the lyrics and the lyrics for that.
Right. So let's move on then to the new album then, the Divine Soulless. You can take a bit longer. What's the concept behind this one then?
So this one's set during the First Crusade.
Right.
So the idea is that instead of this sort of glorious portrayals of the Crusades, we were going to go for a very human, emotional sort of portrayal of it.
Was Crusade something that you were interested in anyway, or did you just come up with it for an idea for the album?
I think it's kind of I got a book on it, and I knew that other members of the band, it was something that interested them, and it just kind of something we came together and it just felt right to go for that, and it was very different from what we'd done before. It was sort of instead of sort of fantasy concepts, it was something that was real, it happened, and I think from a musical perspective, and especially for the vocals, that's something I could connect with in a way that I couldn't with anything else beforehand.
You would say that all three of the albums tie together in some way due to the overall concept was to do with human nature. I remember you.
That's correct. Yeah. So the first record, State of Nature, sort of dystopian, sort of the outcome of nuclear Armageddon sort of thing, and that's a possible future for humanity. The next record with the communist sort of concept, the sci-fi one, it's supposed to be a sort of utopian outcome, whereas this is actually looking at our world now and what it means, and the Crusade in a kind of a sort of allegorical fashion. So it's never really.
So in a sense, the other two are looking more in the future, but now you've sort of taken the past and made it into the present. If you want to
absolutely couldn't fit it better. Yeah. So that's exactly what we were going for. And I think we just found it such a fascinating period, and just the amount of suffering that people went through during that. I mean, it's really based around this idea of getting into the sort of medieval mindset that people were terrified of being weighed after they died by God, and if they'd been sinful, being tortured by horrific demons and all sort of stuff. So the idea is that the kind of the Catholic Church at the time, it kind of was losing power to rulers across Europe. So it kind of brought people together in this crusade to retake the Holy Land, and people were promised salvation if they they'd get involved in it.
Because there was getting on slightly off a tangent. I don't know if you remember it. It was back in the 80s. Was it 80s or 90s? There was a program on ITV, Robin of Sherwood, which was the whole Robin Hood thing, but it was done really well, and they sort of focused a lot on things like the Crusades, and you got a real feel for how it must have been on that particular show. It was better than any of these other ones that they've ever done, or before or since. But are there any particular books or films that you could actually, if somebody was interested in the concept of the Crusades, that you could guide anyone towards, or not?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, in terms of books, there's a scholar down in London called Thomas Asbridge, and he's got one called The Crusades, and he's also got a BBC series, which actually I think you can listen to at the moment. You can watch it on BBC iPlayer. And then
is that the Touching the Past one? One
of our bandmates was complaining a bit about it, but it's very insightful. It's very good. And likewise, the Ridley Scott film Kingdom of Heaven as well is very well. It's worth a watch.
Okay, so in terms of the album, then you were writing it for quite a while before you actually started putting songs together in that sense.
Yes, I'd say the songwriting process was slow, laborious, and borderline torturous at times.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, right. One in particular I'd say is track 3, which is Outremer.
Oh right, yeah.
That one we'd been working on that for over a year. Really? And it took so long, and we were just like, at times, we were close to just ditching it completely because we just couldn't get it to work.
Really? What was the problem then?
We don't know. I mean, it's like we're just never satisfied with how it was coming across, like what it sounded like, how things were flowing. Because I mean, our songs, they have a lot of different kind of sections. There can be tempo changes, mood changes, everything. Just nothing seemed to click. But then just all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Just one day, things started working.
Right. I kind of rewritten the chorus section, and it kind of felt right. But up until that point, we're just like, this just isn't working, and whereas I think that the latter part of the writing process, things came together very quickly.
Really?
So with the title track, I wrote that maybe a week or something, because me and DC had brought something to Andy, which he just said, no, it's rubbish. So I came back to it. I mean, so this happens,
Really,
we've got kind of this, we're pretty harsh on ourselves, we don't want it to be, we're not doing it unless it's right and it doesn't sound like something else.
No, right.
I mean, like, obviously we care about how each other feel, like if we've done something creative, I want to be constructive about it, but I mean, if we just feel that it's not going to work, we're happy to say to each other that just doesn't work. Even at rehearsal, if we're playing along and it just isn't sounding right, we'll just stop the song and go, guys, this sucks, start again. We're very brutal with each other.
Really? Yeah, well, that explains why you take so long, but anyway, one reason. Anyway, we're going to start, because of the length of the tracks, we'll probably, we'll play, seeing you mentioned that, we'll play Antioch and Outremer, and then we'll decide what we want to do. Probably play Jerusalem as well if you fancy it, so see how we get on. But anyway, we'll start with Antioch, because I noticed the album starts with Deus Vult, which is the sort of Gregorian chant type of thing, yeah?
Yeah, it kind of sets the tone, the atmosphere.
Yeah, that was sort of deliberate atmosphere setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it translates as God wills it, and this is a phrase that the Crusaders used when they were there. So I think it sets a scene. It's like an introduction for a movie or something. That's that's the way our brains work. We want to be like a soundtrack for the concept.
So Antioch, do you want to explain about that? In terms of the track itself.
I'll do it as succinct a way as possible, so I don't get beaten from across the room by Andy. But no, the idea with Antioch is it's the sort of the first major battle of the Crusades. It's actually a hell of a story. The idea is it's this city in modern day Syria, which is got 60-foot high walls, and the Crusaders reached there. They sieged it, but because there was an entrance at the back of the city, they couldn't surround it. So they were stuck out there for the entire winter, reduced to eating waste and all sorts of stuff.
God.
And then apparently one of the princes who was kind of leading this contingent, they bought someone on the inside to let them in. And then they took the city after months. And then literally the day later, the Muslim relief force arrived. And they were stuck inside themselves, reduced to eating sort of boot leather and all sorts of things.
Bad frying pan in the fire.
Yes. And then something strange happened. This fella called Peter Bartholomew, he had this vision that the lance that pierced the side of Christ was buried under St. Peter's Basilica in the city of Antioch.
Right.
And apparently they dug and they found this thing.
Really?
And they were inspired, and they went inside the walls, and apparently the Muslim relief force completely crumbled, even though they were vastly outnumbered.
Oh yeah, because of just by virtue of the fact that it existed. Yeah.
But I think in reality that's the sort of, history is it's history of winners. So that's, I think there's doubts about whether that happened. It's more that they tried to basically to sue for some sort of peace, and they were rejected, and they had to basically fight for their lives.
Well, that's fair.
But it's an interesting story nonetheless, and we've captured that sort of occult sort of weirdness is there as well in the sound, I think.
Excellent. Right. Well, let's show the listeners what it's all about. So this is going to be Man-Made Origin from the Divine Soulless album, and we're playing Antioch. I hope.
city in the mountains is impregnable. The only way forward is in God's name. Was it a test? Was it the end? Outside the walls, the cold decay, the cold winter came. The chill reaches our soul.
Yes, I'll get every last second in. That's Antioch, and that's Man-Made Origin from the album The Divine Soulless. And we're just talking there, as we do, about production. Amazing production on it. So you said you recorded the drums at Seagate, yeah?
Yes, the wizard himself, Graham,
right.
got that done for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the rest of the album where?
It was at our friend Scott McLean's place. It was actually in his garage. He has a studio set up there.
Right.
Scott also plays in a band called Phallic, who are signed to Candlelight. Right? Yeah, Candlelight.
Yeah.
They recorded all their stuff there as well. So because we knew him, we were just like, can we come through and record in your studio, please? And he was like, yes, you can.
Right.
So
yeah, we'd come across Phallic because they were touring Dundee. Is one of the dates, and I kind of made friends with them ever since. Actually, after that gig, and it had been discussed that'd be a possibility, and we jumped on the opportunity really to have a kind of, it was quite a collaborative process.
Right.
You know, he produced the record with us, and that was fantastic.
Right, yeah, so presumably it was good to have somebody who was sympathetic to the sort of music you were putting out, yeah?
Yeah.
Who understood where you were going with it.
Yeah, I mean, beforehand, we did the other records with Graham, which was superb.
Right.
But, you know, this time we could have, you know, someone who, you know, already plays music in the genre and, you know, could actually collaborate more creatively. Yeah. And that was really rewarding. That was new to us.
Now, you said you'd got it helped you, the fact that you'd been given some money from the Creative Scotland people. How did that come about?
Well, I mean, as you're saying, the material we'd written to, you know, it's been taking quite a lot of time. You know, we had basically maybe 2.5 songs or something after the other record came out, and then we realised that basically making this record we're putting together to get it the level of production we wanted was going to be expensive.
Right.
And we looked at various means to do that, and one of them was an application to the Scottish Arts Council, Creative Scotland.
Right.
So we put that together maybe to summer 2013, and then by the end of the year we were over the moon to hear that we'd been given funding.
That's great.
So that allowed us to do everything we wanted. Have the time, you know. I mean, the material we did at Scott's studio, we were spending, you know, every weekend for 2 months going up and doing instruments, coming back, reflecting, changing around with stuff, guitar tones, tweaking them for every song until it's just right, you know.
Right.
So it was just exactly the way you'd want it to be.
No, excellent.
Well, we had a lot of time to experiment with various things as well. I mean, on the track Deus Vult, the guitar solo on that, I mean, we had all these like wacky combinations of effects, pedals and everything hooked up to this tiny little crap, like, you know, those little...
It was a practice amp, a 10 watt practice amp.
Right,
I mean, the rest of the record's done in this big kind of orange, you know, amp, you know, 150 watt, you know, stage amp, and whereas this, you know, we did it on this practice amp, and it sounds great, you know, but it was ridiculous.
Really?
How
bizarre.
And it was great for me as well, because I had a lot of time to experiment with percussion and adding in loads of little things just to build a bit of atmosphere. Like we had a singing bowl and everything like that on there. Yeah.
On the title track, you can hear the singing bowl, and it's kind of the kind of how to describe it. There's a dread sort of words.
Oh yeah. I was given they handed me over the bass one day. Yeah. This is on the Divine Soulless, and Scott just stuck an absolute ton of effects on it, like just loads of reverb and delay. I don't know what the names of effects are, but it was just
so this drone. You kind of drone endlessly.
I
so
don't know either.
This kind of droning noise with the singing bowls. This kind of feeling of dread you get with the title track. So that kind of sets the atmosphere up.
Right.
So there's that sort of weirdness there as well.
Yeah. So you just gave me the chance to just put in every little last bit of, you know, all the attention to detail about you'd best probably call it. You know, you were given that luxury, were you?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say like we had a lot of time to focus on the details of things, but we wanted it to be true. Yeah. So attention to detail doesn't necessarily mean like we went back and nitpicked at every little bit, went through everything with a fine-tooth comb and edited everything so that all lined up on like a click track or anything like that.
Oh, that's important. Yeah, with the performances, we were very true to, like, you know, you do the take and that's it. You know, you get the take until it's right, not messing around with things. Same with the vocals, none of this auto-tune stuff. I mean, it really is what you hear is what you get. Right. So that was important to us as well. Yeah. So it's quite kind of traditional way to approach recording in that sense as well, and be as true to the instruments as possible, not getting things, you know, for example, drums are, I mean, a classic example.
I mean, I don't see any value in playing drums and then, like, you know, going through and beat detecting every single little bit so that it sounds like a robot's playing it. I mean, it's like, I don't understand the point of that. I mean, it might work for certain genres. Maybe that's what people like. I mean, it's
so, but I mean, it's a very soulless approach, isn't it? I mean,
in my
paraphrase, but
exactly.
Go on,
Yeah, in my eyes, yeah. I mean, if that's what people like, that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do it at all. That's to each their own. But the way we wanted to do it was it had to sound real and like a human being was playing it. I mean, there are mistakes on there. I make mistakes playing it.
No, that's fair enough. And also, I would imagine it must be a lot by doing it that way. It must translate into the live gig a lot better, because then effectively you've always played it live in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like before we recorded it, we were playing it as a band, and getting it so it was tight before we went in the studio, so we could play it. So there's nothing on there that's doctored around with we can't do. I mean, what you hear is what you get and what you'll see when you come and see us, if you do, which would be lovely.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So the album, I'm just looking at the cover. You designed the cover, Andrew?
I did, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, was that what was your inspiration for that particularly? I mean, it's once you know the concept behind the album, you presumably I mean, it's a great cover, but you avoid anything that sort of gives you an indication that we're talking about Crusades.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, from the very beginning, I wanted to avoid that sort of typical, if you walk into Dobby's and you get these DVDs that are like documentaries about the Crusades, and it's like all these sort of these types of like paintings and things like that. I really wanted to avoid that. I wanted to avoid things with like crosses and religious emblems and like stained glass windows and all that sort of business.
Because I'm just looking at the cover, because I hadn't seen it before they brought it into the studio today. But having heard the first track, it's got the first track that opens the album is really atmospheric, and that sort of, to me, conjures up that first track's all about, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I really was going for like a sort of more of an ominous presence to it, rather than it explicitly stating this is the concept. Right? It was to be a lot more ominous, like it was just to kind of like time with the atmosphere of the album itself. I'd say.
Okay, well let's play another track from it. So we were talking about Outremer. You said this. We'll stick that on next. You said that was that took you forever.
It was a nightmare to put together, but it's actually probably my favourite one, actually.
Really, yeah.
But the track actually, in many ways, it relates to the album cover better than any other, because Outremer is French and it means land beyond the sea, and that's what the Crusaders called the Holy Land.
Right.
So, I mean, in many ways, that sort of the ocean and the cliffs kind of it's kind of showing you the boundaries of the land. Yeah, that's sort of the idea with it.
So you said it came together. It was you were having trouble, and then all of a sudden it sort of just suddenly started clicking in a way. I mean, so when you actually got to a point where you were happy with it, were you then going, right, no, let's not do anything else with it, that's the one? Or
it still got messed around with a bit more, but I think it was, the difficulty is with when you listen to it is that the verse and chorus is a bit difficult to differentiate when when we're writing this. It's like, because it's quite repetitive, the verse, but in the chorus it's quite kind of slow, and originally we didn't have, in terms of the kind of the rhythm for it, they were a bit too similar, and it was just like we weren't really getting it at our end, whereas now that we got it works now, and it's a lot of repetition in both parts, and it just kind of.
I mean, whether you answer this question, because I think you sort of passed it by earlier, but what was the problem you were having? Was it just simply arrangements? Were you, not particularly, you couldn't, the riffs or the rhythm or the just general.
It didn't feel right.
Just didn't feel right.
Yeah, feels everything. It's like, and it's the same with the recording process as well. It's like you can play something or you can play it. So it can be note perfect, but it doesn't feel right. So that we've gone for a lot of feel on this record.
Oh, that's all right. No, good to see. Anyway, right. So let's stick that on. So from the album the Divine Soulless, this is Man-Made Origin and Outremer.
Feeling like on the eastern tide, all in vain. Last of the Valentine, crucignatures, bursting land cars, guns.
Feeling
Right, that's Man-Made Origin. Stephen Wilson. Then, oh, that's Man-Made Origin, and it's all right. We were talking about Porcupine Tree, Stephen Wilson in the break while we were just doing that. I'm not going to tell you actually on air what we were saying. It was all good, by the way. But I've got several stories. Anyway, that was Divine Soulless album from Man-Made Origin. That was a track called Outremer, and if you can hear. Crackle. Well, it sounds like crackling in the headphones here. We're recording this on as this goes out. This is Saturday, right? Today is Saturday, but we're recording it on the Sunday before, and it is absolutely slatting down with rain, and the windows rattling away. So that's what you can hear. You can hear the rain on the window if you can hear that on air. But anyway, just so you know what's going on. Anyway, we'll come back to Man-Made Origin in a min. In the meantime, we'll tell you about what we're doing and a couple of things we love. So you're listening to The Sound on Radio North Angus on 107.5 FM in Carnoustie, 96.6 FM in Arbroath, 87.7 FM in Forfar, close, and on that frequency in Stracathro Hospital and Brecon and Montrose Infirmaries and White Hills Health and Community Centre. Also broadcasting on the Tayside Multiplex Shared Access Digital Channel on weekday mornings and more extensively at weekends, and broadcasting worldwide on a computer, smartphone, laptop or app near you on the Radio North Angus website, which is www.radionorthangus.co.uk. And today on the show we have Man-Made Origin, and we're playing tracks from the new album, and they've got an album launch gig happening at Buskers tonight, which we're going to talk about in a min. In the meantime, we do the ads, and so we've got a place called Tay Tea. Now they're in Meadow Mill in West Henderson's Wide in Dundee. They've got a shop there, and they specialise in screen transfer and direct-to-garment printing. So if you've got a great idea for something to put on a T-shirt or a sweatshirt or whatever, whether it's front, back, design, logo, text, photo, you name it, they'll do it for you. Go and see them. We had a couple of they did us free of charge actually, a couple of sound, there's a couple of T-shirts with the sound on it and various text things, and they came out great, so I can recommend them on a personal basis. Anyway, if you want to know more about them in advance, www.thetayshirt.co.uk, and email is bert@taytea.com. On the phone 01382 322 that rain is driving me batty. Okay, right, we'll do this one. There's an old phrase, there is nothing like a coal fire. However, with the introduction of central heating a number of years ago, to become increasingly difficult to purchase the fireside accessories that were once commonplace in the home. So if you've been searching for that elusive fireside item, we have good news. Barclay Ross of 12 Commerce Street, Arbroath, has a range of accessories available, which includes grates, fire guards, close, coal scuttles and fireside companions. I've always wanted one of those. Whether you've had a great... Oh, I can't read this. It's all right. I do the ads, and the Barclay Ross supply me with this sheet, and I've been reading it for a year, and it's fallen apart. So, hang on. Whether you've had a coal fire for all of your life, or whether you wish to introduce this in addition to your present heating system, you'll find an impressive range available at Barclay Ross. Other traditional household goods are available, along with those with the latest in technology, which is indicative of the wide range of items for the home and garden available at Barclay Ross, 12 Commerce Street, Arbroath, open from 9am to 5pm, Monday to Saturday. So that's it, and I nearly got that right without flinching. The story of our advert... Oh, I'll put you back on. Yeah, you're on now. The story... Hello. Go on. Yes, no, the story of our adverts is legion. Sometimes we get the guest to do it, so but not on this occasion. But I might ask you, but we'll see what happens. We once, when Jennifer, who used to do the show with me, we were reading the ad out, and we were talking about accents, and I originally come from Stafford, which is near Stoke-on-Trent, between Stoke-on-Trent and Birmingham. So she said, your accent sounds a bit Birmingham-like. So I said, okay, I'm just in there. I'll do the ads in a Birmingham accent. So I tried it in a Birmingham accent, and I tried it, and it fell apart. I think it took about 20 minutes to do the ads because we were just laughing intensely. But anyway, that's another matter. Anyway, yeah, we're here with Man-Made Origin. So yes, now as this programme goes out on a Saturday, although you will be able to hear it if you're not in on the Saturday, they're doing a launch gig at Buskers tonight. Yeah, who else have you got playing with you?
We have from Dundee, Dirty Judas.
Yes.
From Glasgow, Maelstrom, and from Edinburgh, Ramajink.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So it's a good lineup. I know Dirty Judas because Gavin, drummer, used to play in Core, didn't he?
Core, yeah.
So that's fair. And we've been playing the tracks from their album on the show. The other two I don't know.
Well, Maelstrom are kind of like, I'd say they're kind of, would you call them black metal?
They're kind of progressive black metal.
Yeah.
And Jamie, our keyboard player, plays with them as well.
Really? Right.
And they're also label mates as well.
Oh, right. He's
They got signed to.
He's going to have a busy night then.
Yeah, it's alright. Yes.
Right.
Also, the vocalist from Maelstrom, Will, he features on a couple of tracks on our album too.
Oh, really? Right,
Yeah. Some of the more high pitched screamy noises, he does those.
Right.
So, but yeah, these guys are awesome, and Ramajink, who are from Edinburgh.
Right.
If you like yourself a sort of bit of strapping young lad or anything like that, these are definitely these guys are awesome. Got huge sound.
Really,
they sound fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that's good. So it's going to be a great gig. You have to turn up tonight. So it's a buskers. All kicks off. Well, the doors open about 7:30, don't they?
Doors are at 7.
7, right? Yeah. That's okay. That's cool. And you're headlining, no doubt, and you're going to be playing the whole album, yeah.
From start to finish, yes.
Wow, that's going to be something else. Yeah. So, obviously, you've let us have a CD for the radio today. Presumably, you'll have copies. Will you be selling it on the night, or because you've got this? I mean, one thing I should say is the band have actually got distribution, countrywide distribution for the
worldwide,
new
in fact.
album. Worldwide, yes. In that case, thank you. Just correct me when I'm wrong. Feel free, I get it wrong all the time. Anyway, it's worldwide distribution through Plastic Head, yes?
Via Contagion Records, our label, yeah.
Right, so it's Contagion Records label, Plastic Head are distributing it. So if you're listening to this and you want to get the Man-Made Origin, obviously you can order it on all the usual websites, presumably.
Yes.
Including, you said it's available for pre-order on Amazon.
It is, as we speak,
Indeed. So, but if you're one of these people who supports your local independent record shop and they don't know about Man-Made Origin, go in and order it, and they'll just say Plastic Head, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. Trust me, I used to work in one. Anyway, right. So So have you been rehearsing madly for the gig, or have you got it pretty down to an art form?
Well, we have been rehearsing quite a bit. 3-hour rehearsals each time.
Really? 3 hours. Wow.
Yeah. Play the set through once, discuss what we need to work on little individual bits, and then play the set through again.
Right.
That's generally how things go.
Yeah. And then and this launch gig's just, I mean, it's the only gig you got in the foreseeable future, which is probably for the moment a good thing, because I think one of the things a lot of bands are guilty of is overdoing the gigs.
Yeah.
I won't name any names, but you know who you are. But no, I think there's a lot of bands who think. I mean, there's always been this thing whereby to build up a following, you've got to play incessantly in your local area, and then once everybody knows you can then branch out. But the problem you run into in a place like Dundee is the fact that you play incessantly in Dundee, and eventually, actually, people don't want to know you. You get fed up with seeing you. So, and I think the sort of attitude of less is more sometimes works rather well. So I think,
yeah. In terms of the Dundee music scene, we are. I'd say we're hermits, to say the least.
Well, yeah, I mean, when they just came in the studio today, I described them as Dundee's best kept secret, which actually isn't, probably not now, but I mean, certainly in the past, probably isn't far from the truth. That you haven't really had that. I don't think you've had the recognition you've deserved from it. I mean, but then again, you haven't been the most prolific of gigging bands in recent years, shall we say? Have you?
Yeah, that's fair.
I'd say the trouble we ran into with that is that. A lot of the bands that we often played with, or okay, I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this, is that we didn't fit in with a lot of the bands that played Dundee around about that time. At the time, I'd say there was a lot of sort of it was just sort of like very sort of thrash metal or like metalcore. Metalcore was big at the time, like your sort of Bring Me the Horizon, Bullet for My Valentine type stuff. Which is fine. I mean, if that's what people were enjoying, that's great. There was a scene for it, and people were loving it. The unfortunate thing about that was we couldn't. We never really ticked any of the boxes for that kind of scene, and we were just seeing these like weirdos who were playing like old man progressive metal.
Yeah, like, that part of the problem must unfortunately, and I'm not naming any names. It must lie with the promoters, unfortunately, because again they look at what you were doing, and because it didn't fit the box. It was like you were just sort of like, oh no, we don't want them. You know, nobody had the vision, shall we say, to actually think, no, let's put them on and see, you know, something different, see where it goes. And I think that's a problem. Promoters tend to have a bit of tunnel vision. I know everybody's got to make money out there, right? You're all in there. You've got to keep your venue going, everything like that. But you've got to have some, you know, maybe it's me, but I think you've got to have some kind of vision, some kind of a bit of bravado, just to say, yeah, let's mix things up a bit.
Well, the thing, I mean, nowadays, well, back then we kind of like it was frustrating, but since then we're a lot more at peace with it because we'd gone out, we'd been playing a lot more gigs outside of Dundee, like sort of Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, and things like that, and we met a lot more people who were similar to us, like the likes of Ramaging, like Maelstrom, Storm of Embers. Glacier. I mean, we had this thing. We kind of started it. It was called the Hollow Earth Collective. It was a great idea at the time, and it felt like if we really kind of put the effort into it, it was going to work. It was like this sort of collective of progressive or experimental bands. We'd all just do gigs and shows together, and we'd all fund it. We'd all chip in, and like it would work. And for a while, it was going well, but after that, it just kind of petered out a little bit. So these things happen, but. But since then, like I say, we found a lot more sort of like-minded musicians, and we're finding it a lot easier to play these shows, even in Dundee.
Oh, well, that's good.
So. And we did take time out as well to do the writing. I mean, it was important to us to really give 100,000,000% to this recording, and then get out there and show it to people.
Are you still in touch with Sarah? I know she's disappeared at the moment, but I mean, I noticed she's done several bits on the album. So
so she contributed to the writing process on both Adela and Antioch, and then she left us down to London, which I believe where she is.
That's right.
And then we completed the rest of the record and asked her to come up to do her parts, and also we had this instrumental music for the first track, Deus Vult, and left that with her. And
what do you do
in
terms of her bits that she's singing on the album? Have you got anyone doing those bits?
I'm essentially doing everything. Yes.
All right. Oh, you're going to be a busy man on the night as well, then.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We've not really talked about Jamie, who came in. He did all the keyboard parts for the album. It was quite difficult for him, I imagine, because because more or less all the music was written at the time, and it was we needed keyboards to work with it. And it was a lot of work. He did a fantastic job at pulling it all together and getting it to work. And cool. What he's doing live now just sounds fantastic. Really? So we're really happy with how things have gone with Jamie.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So we're looking forward to the launch gig tonight, and I hope it all goes really well for you.
We hope it does.
I'm sure it will. No, I mean, it's like I say. I mean, the whole album is just great. So let's fingers crossed. Everybody turn up. Just forget the weather. I mean, I don't know what it's doing. Hopefully, by the time Saturday comes, it'll. Well, that sounds like a concept from a sci-fi movie. But today, let's hope it's sunny. Anyway, it's like, I hate doing these pre-recorded things. Anyway, right. So that's pretty well it. And thank you, Kelly, in the corner there. For being here. It's all right. Kelly hasn't said a word, have you? No, right, you have now. Right, okay. Anyway, so we'll leave it. So what we're going to do is just play the track Jerusalem as the last track. And is this sort of like, tell us a bit about Jerusalem, the track.
Well, Jerusalem's kind of, I guess, the pinnacle of the concept. I mean, the idea is that these people were searching for divinity, salvation for their souls, for Christendom, and in the end, they ended up, their actions was everything that it stands against, so they became complete maniacs, fundamentalists, and when it comes to the sack of Jerusalem at the end of the First Crusade, they just massacre the city. Oh,
well, there you go. Good way of ending everything, really, pretty well. Right, so thank you to the band, thank you to both of you for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
It's been a pleasure, and great to feature the album. We're looking forward to the gig tonight, and so we'll end with Man-Made Origin from the album The Divine Soulless, and this is Jerusalem.
Holy city, obscure,
So there you have it. That's Jerusalem from Man-Made Origin, from the brand new album, The Divine Soulless. And great to have them in the studio. Really enjoyed doing that. That was great. Loved the album. Absolutely loved that album. Launch gigs tonight. I will be there. I hope I'll be with some friends, but I'll certainly be there. We'll see what happens. And good luck to the band with this. It sounds like it's all going in the right direction. So get out and buy it. Just great stuff.